What if Mara Jade and Anakin Skywalker were born at the same time, both from the Force? That's the path I want to explore today. What would happen if Anakin kind of had an equal? The Chosen One prophecy maybe wasn't just about him. That's what we're going to go over today. I think it's a fun path. I enjoyed writing it. Let me know what you think. I don't know if this has been done before. I didn't check. But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed listening to this one. I enjoyed writing it, so stay tuned. It's, different, so I hope you enjoy. The galaxy was at peace. The Republic was at full strength under Chancellor Valorum, and the Jedi Order was maintaining peace in the ways the Jedi Council saw fit. Everything seemed to be good. But hidden away underneath it all, corruption was rapidly growing in the Senate, and at the center of all of this corruption was a Sith Lord and his apprentice, Darth Plagueis and Darth Sidious. Darth Plagueis was growing stronger in the Force, truly learning to control it, to manipulate midichlorians to create life. And one day, as his experiments reached an all-new level of success, the Force retaliated. The Force could not and would not be controlled by anyone without retaliation, and in order to halt the power of the Sith, the Force put into motion the prophecy of the Chosen Ones. On Tatooine, a boy was born without a father. His name was Anakin Skywalker, and at the same time, a girl was born on Coruscant without a father. Her name was Mara Jade. To combat the power of the dark side, the Force created two equals, forever connected to each other, that were destined to bring balance to the Force. 10 years later, Jedi Knights Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi were on Tatooine for a new hyperdrive when they discovered a Vergence in the Force. Inside of a random junk shop on this sand planet, Qui-Gon discovered Anakin Skywalker, and Qui-Gon quickly realized that this boy was special. In time, Anakin was taken to the Jedi Council, and events would play out with Qui-Gon and Darth Maul dying, and Obi-Wan promising to train the boy. And on Coruscant at the same time, newly elected Chancellor Palpatine was alone in his quarters, basking in the dark side. He had recently killed his master, and was now the master of the Sith, with Maul as his former apprentice, in need of a new one. But as Palpatine gave himself to the Force, he too felt a vergence. Palpatine walked outside to see a crashed speeder with a Jedi arresting a criminal. Palpatine looked on as the Jedi left with the prisoner to see a small girl staring at the crashed speeder. The Jedi hadn't stopped the speeder from crashing into her home, killing her mother. Palpatine watched the girl. She was angry, and with that anger, Palpatine felt the Force strong hidden within her. Interesting, he thought, and Palpatine put up his hood, heading over to the girl, offering her a place with him. And over time, Palpatine realized this girl could be the ultimate key to his grand plan. She would be hidden from everyone in the galaxy except for him, and when the time was right, she would be powerful enough to destroy the Jedi. And so the Jedi, headed by Kenobi, trained Anakin Skywalker in the ways of the Jedi, while Darth Sidious trained the girl named Mara Jade in the ways of the dark side. Sidious kept Mara on Coruscant, hidden away in his hidden lair inside of the works. As Anakin trained, there was very little interference this time from Palpatine. He didn't have time to manipulate Anakin, with Dooku as his new apprentice and Mara training hidden away. Dooku didn't know about Mara, but Mara knew about Dooku. In fact, Mara knew everything. Sidious was the only person she really knew, and in order to make up for this, for keeping her isolated in the works, Sidious explained his grand plan to her in order to keep her motivated to continue training. And the two, Anakin and Mara, trained in completely opposite ways, but something was always missing from the both of them. Both of them sometimes felt like they were missing an entire limb, like there was just something in the galaxy that could complete them. The connection between Mara and Anakin was completely unknown to everyone except the two of them. Though they didn't know each other, they would occasionally feel the presence of someone else, the presence of each other, and both Mara and Anakin would try to ignore it, assuming it was due to not having their mother any longer, feeling like they still needed her. And one day, Anakin began having dreams, nightmares about his mother. At this time, Anakin and Obi-Wan were on a mission on Cato Nemoidia. They had not been assigned to protect Padme Amidala this time, as Palpatine was not interfering on Anakin's life, and so the two really had no connection. Anakin occasionally would remember her, but with his training with the Jedi and no interference from Palpatine, Padme was now just a distant memory. And while on the mission in Cato Nemoidia, Anakin told Obi-Wan he had to save his mother from the torture that he saw in his nightmares. Obi-Wan disagreed, saying they had a job to do and dreams pass in time. But Anakin would not have this, ditching Obi-Wan in the middle of the night to save his mother. And Anakin traveled to Tatooine alone to find his mother tied up and beaten in a Tusken hut. Anakin tried to save her, but he was unsuccessful and she died in his arms. Obi-Wan and the Jedi prevented him from getting here in time, and Anakin now gave himself into the rage, killing every last Tusken in this camp. As Anakin killed the last one, blinded by rage, everything around him began to change. And suddenly, Anakin was in a dark room, lit only by a swinging purple lightsaber, taking on battle droids in what seemed to be a training exercise. Everything was blurry and distant and clearly not real, but Anakin saw a girl, roughly the same age as him, he felt. He felt her pause and turn around. Neither of them could see the other's face in the blurriness of this vision, but yet the two of them recognized each other. They'd felt each other in the Force for years, and in a moment of rage, the Force was showing Anakin this person. He could feel his connection to her, like they were meant to be together. And then the vision, or whatever it was, faded, and Anakin was alone on the sands of Tatooine, left to wonder what it was he just saw. Inside of her isolated home, inside of the works, Mara Jade deignited her lightsaber and deactivated the training droids. She fell to her knees, confused about everything. She was training to be the destroyer of the Jedi, and somehow, the person she shared this connection with had a blue lightsaber. It was clear he was a Jedi or something close to it, yet she couldn't see his face, aside from some sort of blur. How did he get here? Who was he? Where had he gone? Mara was frustrated. She slammed the training droids to the wall, wishing this presence would just get out of her head. When the Jedi finally died, perhaps then he would leave her alone. Anakin returned to Obi-Wan after burying his mother and seeing this person he seemed to be forever intertwined with. Despite seeing the red lightsaber, Anakin couldn't bring himself to tell the Jedi he would be outcasted or ignored because of his tapping into the dark side. At least, what he thought was the dark side. Was the saber red? Purple? Was that the dark side? He couldn't tell. He was too confused, wasn't even sure what he saw. Was it a Sith Lord? It couldn't be. And the more Anakin thought about it, the more he remembered his connection. The purple lightsaber. It wasn't red. Anakin thought. She wasn't all dark side. He could barely comprehend what he had saw, who that person was, and he thought for now he could not tell the Jedi. She was out there somewhere, and someday Anakin would find her. He couldn't tell the Jedi. He'd be outcasted or ignored because of his tapping into the dark side. The Council already seemed not to trust him, and the scolding from Kenobi and others for leaving the mission just further proved Anakin's point. Both Anakin and Mara would spend time meditating, hoping to connect once again with each other, but all they could feel was the occasional emotional surge from the other. They soon learned to live with it, and even appreciate it, knowing there was someone out there just as conflicted with the Force. Mara wanted revenge on the Jedi for killing her mother, and she'd given herself to the dark side, to Darth Sidious, but there was always a spot of light within her. Her mother was kind, gentle, just a regular person trying to make her way in the galaxy. Would she be proud of who Mara was becoming? And Anakin was becoming one of the most powerful Jedi ever, but the darkness always tugged at him. Anakin wanted to learn more, and he now knew the only time he ever accessed this person's connection was when he tapped into the dark. These thoughts gave him much turmoil throughout the next few years, until the Clone Wars began. The perfect distraction to everything. And Palpatine still had a grand plan of taking down the Jedi from the inside, with the clones, and then unleashing Mara to massacre the temple, all in due time. With the Clone Wars now raging hard after 2 years, Anakin had become a Republic hero, known around the Republic as the hero with no fear, and known inside the Jedi Order as the Chosen One. He quickly became the poster boy of the Clone Wars. He led the 501st Legion, and was given an apprentice by Yoda as a way to help Anakin mature and learn to let go. Together, him and Ahsoka with Obi-Wan by their side led the Republic to many more victories than Sidious would have preferred. And eventually, Anakin was far too much of an irritant to Palpatine's plans, and Palpatine decided it was time for him to die. It was also time for Mara Jade, known now as the Separatist's Hand, to face a true test. Palpatine personally called Anakin into his office, where he gave him a mission. Anakin was to go to the planet Monolith, where Palpatine said Separatist leaders were to be gathered, and Anakin was to go alone in order to make sure the Separatist leaders weren't alerted to his presence. And as Anakin took off, Palpatine called upon Mara Jade for her most important test yet. She had gone out to take out Republic officers and Jedi of much lower power than Anakin, and she was always successful. Each time, she fell more into the dark side, further from her connection to the person inside her head, and she watched Palpatine as he gave her a new mission: kill Anakin Skywalker. The words rang in her head, she couldn't quite figure out why. Kill Anakin Skywalker. And Anakin landed on Monolith to try and find the Separatist leaders with the coordinates given to him by Palpatine. The Council and Ahsoka had insisted that Anakin not go alone, but Anakin agreed with Palpatine that this mission was best done alone. A Republic cruiser was in orbit with Kenobi and Ahsoka waiting for when Anakin discovered the leaders to ambush and arrest them, but for now, it was just hidden, just Anakin with the cruiser hidden away. He made his way through the busy streets and to the coordinates, which took him to a secluded balcony overlooking a large river. Anakin found no one here and attempted to call the cruiser, but his comms were jammed suddenly. Alone, seemingly tricked, Anakin ignited his lightsaber, and seconds later, he felt someone flying towards him. A familiar presence, he thought, and with a split-second reaction, Anakin blocked the purple lightsaber that swung at his face. A moment later, he found himself clashing sabers with a woman who had immense power. Both of them were too distracted to realize who the other was. Anakin had almost forgotten about seeing the purple lightsaber in the vision on Tatooine, and Anakin floated down to the riverbank now to get more open space for this duel. Mara followed closely behind, and the two dueled right next to the rushing water. Anakin was using a defensive technique now, as he was still coming to grasp with exactly what was going on. Somehow the Separatists knew that he was coming, and must have hired this assassin. And as the two dueled, jumping from rock to rock, using the Force to throw waves at each other, Anakin began to feel the familiarity. As his rage built while fighting, his mind was thrown back for a split second to his vision on Tatooine of the woman with the purple lightsaber. This was her, he now knew. And while Anakin was recalling seeing her before, Mara slashed Anakin's leg, and he fell to the ground. As Anakin screamed in pain, she felt his emotions in her head, and everything clicked for her as well. The vision, it was him. The Jedi in front of her was the one in her head for her entire life. And as both of them realized the truth, it was like their minds connected for a moment. Anakin felt her. He saw her memories. He knew her name. He saw the Jedi crash and kill her mother. He saw her begin training in the Force. Then he saw a hooded figure instructing her. And Mara saw Anakin. Saw him leave his mother. Then saw him kill the Tuskens after his mother died. Saw his training. His turmoil. And at once, they both looked at each other as if they'd known each other forever. For the first time, the part of both of them that was hidden away was revealed. As Mara stood looking at Anakin, she had to choose between Sidious and the path she'd spent over a decade preparing for, or Anakin, who she had been connected to forever. And she heard the voice of her master ringing in her head, "Kill Anakin Skywalker." Anakin felt the shift back into the mindset of killing him, so he reacted quickly. He pushed Mara backwards as far as he could, then flopped into the raging river to hide him, taking him away. Anakin was swept away, going under and crashing into the occasional rock, the cut in his leg hurting more with every twist. But eventually, he was able to crawl and hide inside of a small cave on the side of the river. In time, he would make his way to his ship and get off this planet. But right now he was dazed, confused, and fainted from the injuries and the river. Mara got up looking for Anakin in the river, but when she knew he was gone, she took off for Coruscant. She gave herself to the rage, pushing away any feeling of light inside her. Something had awakened when she met Anakin, something that wanted to kill the darkness, but she couldn't let it. The words "kill Anakin Skywalker" rang in her head over and over. She would, eventually. Her mission, her loyalty, belonged to her master, she understood. Mara Jade arrived back on Coruscant, kneeling before Darth Sidious in the works. She told Sidious that Skywalker was greatly injured, but had escaped. He shouldn't be a problem for now, though, and Sidious smiled back at her before saying she had done well. Sidious could feel the conflict in her, though, and knew she had to give herself completely to the dark side. The Jedi were scattered, the war was in full swing, and Sidious thought this the perfect time to execute his grand plan. The Republic had a false sense of security, with Dooku recently killed by Windu and Grievous destroyed by Plo Koon. With Anakin and many of the other masters off-world now, was the perfect time for the clone ambush across the galaxy and in the temple. Yoda was off-world, Windu was off-world. Mara would go to the temple and either give herself completely to the dark side, or die. Across all clone frequencies, Darth Sidious now said, "Execute Order 66." Jedi Masters and Padawans across the galaxy were slaughtered without hesitation. Ki-Adi-Mundi, Aayla Secura, Depa Billaba, Plo Koon were among the first to fall as their own clones fired upon them. And on Monolith, Obi-Wan and Ahsoka had left the Republic cruiser with a squad of clone troopers inside of a transport to find Anakin, who had gone radio silent. Eventually, following a trail of lightsaber cuts and then following the river, they were able to find Anakin. And right as Anakin had awoken and was able to stand up, the 10 clones began firing. Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, and Anakin quickly blocked shots from all 10 troopers, killing them before they could even process what was happening. Obi-Wan attempted to hail the Republic cruiser, but got nothing back. It appeared all the clones were turning on them, hunting them down. So together, the three of them went with Anakin to the cruiser they took to the surface and managed to escape, jumping to hyperspace before more clones could get to them. Inside the Jedi Temple now, clones were pouring in from the main entrance, thousands of them, taking out Jedi after Jedi. Mara Jade was leading another squad, but upon getting to the entrance, Mara had to veer off, the call to the light stronger now than ever. She remembered Anakin, remembered how good it had felt for the split second they had finally met. Then she heard the voice in her head again, the voice ringing, screaming, "Kill Anakin Skywalker." And she knew the best way to kill the light side in her forever, the best way to get to Anakin and kill him. Destroy the Jedi younglings, cut her off from the light side in the worst way. Anakin emerged from hyperspace and into Coruscant's atmosphere with Obi-Wan and Ahsoka when they saw the Jedi Temple. It was burning, clones were climbing the steps, Jedi were dying. Anakin felt into the Force for Mara Jade, and he could feel her conflict. He could feel the pull to the light, the same way he often felt the pull to the dark. And Anakin could feel her intention to now kill the light side. So in a final moment of desperation, Anakin gave himself completely to the Force, focusing everything on Mara Jade, trying to find her. He understood her, and Anakin now understood that perhaps he alone was not the chosen one, but they were the chosen one together. He reached out with the Force, and Anakin found Mara Jade. Mara reached the top of the elevator to the council chambers, where the younglings were hiding. The door opened, and Mara felt a tear roll down her cheek as she knew her mission. As she moved on the younglings, she heard a voice behind her. It was Anakin calling to her. As Anakin said her name for the first time, Mara felt the warm feeling she'd felt every time they connected, like everything was right. Anakin, now connected to Mara through the Force, pleaded with her to stand down. Anakin said he understood that he often felt a call to the dark the same ways she felt a call to the light. Anakin told her the only way for both of them to achieve true satisfaction, they must join each other. As Anakin felt the connection begin to fade, he asked her to stop and meet him at the bottom of the temple stairs. The connection broke off, and Anakin stared ahead. He wasn't sure why, but he was sure that Mara would do the right thing. Mara stared at the younglings from the elevator, her lightsaber ignited as she stabbed forward. She stabbed the controls of the elevator, making sure it was stuck at the top, so no clones could get up there. And then she jumped through the window, scaling down the tower to the roof of the temple, then scaling down the temple to the stairs. She listened to the screams and the blaster fire coming from the temple. She could have prevented all of this, but was blinded by the dark side, blinded by Darth Sidious. Anakin had helped clear her mind, and in her head, though, she heard it again. Kill Anakin Skywalker. Mara had thought the only way to get rid of that voice was to kill Anakin, kill the light side in her. But no, she would make up for it all by killing Sidious. Only then would his tormenting voice go away. For years, the connection to her head was from Anakin, but after meeting him and feeling the presence of him, she felt more complete than ever before. She reached the bottom of the stairs to find Anakin Skywalker alone. Obi-Wan and Ahsoka had gone to the temple to assist, while Anakin waited here for Mara. She would have expected any Jedi to immediately arrest or even kill her, but Anakin was a calm presence in the Force. He truly understood the powerful call to the dark side. He understood Mara, understood that she could be redeemed. Anakin smiled at her, and even took her by the hands when she reached him. Mara was crying as Sidious's voice rang in her ears. Kill Anakin Skywalker, over and over as she looked right at him. She could kill Anakin now, get rid of the voice, but she didn't. It was like they'd known each other forever, and eventually, Anakin asked where the Sith Lord was hiding. Mara hesitated for a moment, then revealed everything, how Palpatine was the Sith Lord, controlling everything, and how she's been training for this very day. But Palpatine had never known about her connection to Anakin. It was an unbreakable bond, especially now that they were together. And together they got into a nearby speeder to go and confront Sidious. They arrived at his office, where he was speaking to a clone commander. Sidious was talking to the leader of the 187th Legion, who said Mace Windu had been shot and killed. Sidious smiled as he heard this, but his smile was disrupted by two lightsabers igniting behind him. He turned to see Anakin Skywalker next to his apprentice, Mara Jade. Sidious snarled, angered as Anakin continued to be the only Jedi getting in the way of his plans, yet again. Dooku was dead, Grievous was destroyed, and now his apprentice he'd spent forever keeping a secret was turning on him. So be it, he thought, and ignited his own crimson saber. He could kill the apprentice he trained, along with the so-called chosen one. Sidious leapt into the air, spinning, clashing lightsabers with both Anakin and Mara in extremely quick fashion. The two of them were caught off guard, but after a moment they regained their composure for the fight. Anakin and Mara were off balance and had to use a defensive style to keep Sidious at bay. 3 lightsabers clashing, sending sparks across the room as artifacts were destroyed. Walls were seared. Anakin and Mara were being backed up still when their minds seemed to connect. Fighting together on the same side for the first time, the Force was allowing them to fight as one, and a split second later, they had the upper hand. Anakin using Form 5, Mara using Form 4, the aggressive pushes pushed Sidious back, aggressive strikes, going for vulnerable spots, forcing Sidious to lose Force lightning to keep them at bay. As the strikes got more aggressive, Sidious pushed Mara back, and Anakin took the opportunity to disarm the Sith Lord. Anakin backed him into a corner and about to go for the killing blow. As he did, Sidious shot a powerful blast of lightning right into Anakin when he least expected it, engulfing him in a moment of surprise. And as he was electrocuting Anakin, burning him, Mara ran up and paused. Anakin pleaded for her to help, and Sidious said not to listen to him. Only once Anakin was gone would Mara be free of the light side, free of the torment. Mara watched as Anakin writhed in pain on the ground. She looked to Sidious, then to Anakin, and she remembered the compassion from Anakin. It was real. It was never manipulative, like Sidious. Sidious made promises of peace and of power. He promised if Anakin died, then the light side would die with him. And Mara knew right then what she wanted. She wanted to embrace Anakin, embrace the light. She'd been denying her true feelings for Anakin since their small moment on Monolith. He understood her like no one else in the galaxy. And with a thrust forward, she stabbed the unarmed Sidious in the heart. Sidious looked at her with hatred, and as he died, Mara felt the hatred, torment, and pain inside of her die along with him. Sidious had controlled her emotions and her life forever. She had finally taken control and saved Anakin, the same way he had saved her. Sidious was dead, and Mara now ran over to Anakin. The voices that were telling her to kill him were now gone, and Mara fully embraced Anakin. They'd saved each other, saving the galaxy from the Sith. The two embraced and kissed each other before getting up and flying to the Jedi Temple to finish the clones. The additions of Kenobi and Ahsoka had helped slow the clones, and now Anakin and Mara joined in to finish the battle. After a while, the clones were cleared out, and the Jedi were able to regroup to come together to decide on a plan of action. The main survivors in the temple consisted of Anakin, Mara, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, Kit Fisto, Agen Kolar, and various Padawans and younglings. The Senate was looking for answers, and after a while, a Senate pod of Anakin, Mara, and Obi-Wan reached the center. Mara explained she was a separatist agent who had turned to the side of the Republic. She explained that Palpatine was power-hungry and had controlled both sides of the war in hopes of taking over. She explained what the Jedi had come to figure out, that the clones were programmed to kill the Jedi by Palpatine. And after all this, Mara was believed, and the Jedi were thanked for saving the Republic. She was given full immunity for helping the Republic in the end, and the Jedi set off to rebuild the Order. With Grand Master Yoda killed in action, the Jedi needed a new Grand Master, and it was Obi-Wan Kenobi with Anakin Skywalker as his equal. Two Grand Masters as the Order rebuilt, and they did so on a remote island on Ahch-To, the spot of the first ever Jedi Temple. The Order was reformed, allowing for attachments, and that was a new rule, put in place largely by Anakin. With this new rule, Anakin and Mara Jade fell in love and would get married. Mara was welcomed into the Jedi Order after embracing Anakin and embracing the light side to kill Darth Sidious. And for many years, the Order would live on through the teachings of Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Mara Jade. And that's where our story concludes today. Let me know what you thought of this. It was a different path than I've ever taken, giving Anakin an equal, someone he could connect with, someone that wasn't Padme that he could, relate to, and eventually fall in love with and get married to. Again, let me know what you thought. I enjoyed writing this. I enjoyed kind of dealing with I don't want to say forced dyad, but something very close to it, as they were birthed at the same time, birthed by the Force to combat the growing power of the Sith. So, I hope you enjoyed this path. Thank you for watching. Please leave a like. It helps more than you know. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.